Hello, welcome. My name is Desiree Pointer-Mace. I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Education at Alverno College in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is a Google Hangout intended to engage in as much of an interchange as going to be possible, conversation about Teach for America in Milwaukee and Enseña por Argentina in Argentina. And we have joining us today several teachers who are engaged in Enseña por Argentina and several teachers who are engaged in Teach for America. Raise your hand, guys. All right, excellent. So what I think is remarkable about this opportunity, and I'm very grateful to Ezekiel, wave your hand over there, who has organized a group of Argentinian educators, wave your hands, yes, who are visiting us this week, basically to talk about how powerful this is that we have a global profession, and that that all of us, regardless of what year we're in our teaching, are engaged in trying to improve our teaching practice every day. To our Argentinian colleagues who are here, I hope to be able to meet you. I spent last summer in Buenos Aires for a month, and I'm going to be there again this summer, winter for you. June to July. So my hope is that this is the beginning of a conversation we can continue when I'm there in person. So without further ado, Marcos, would you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Marcos Roca. I'm actually a teacher, but I don't work as a teacher in the program. I'm at the staff in the formation area. I don't know how you call it there. My English
teacher mentoring.
Okay, great. My English might not be very good, so I hope you to be patient. And well, I'm very happy to be here. I've heard a lot about Alverno College. Actually, I study science of education, and the university where I study is now closing the career and reopening it with the Alverno College method. So I've heard a lot about you, and I'm very happy to meet you.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcos. Tomas.
Hello. I'm having some problems with the audio. I'm sorry.
Maybe Natalia. Do you wanna join and introduce yourself while Tomas is fixing his audio?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Natalia. I started this year the program at Enseña por Argentina, and I'm working at a state school in the city of Buenos Aires. I'm giving English lessons most of all. It's a challenge, I could say.
Yes, I see a lot of people are now. I should also say, Natalia and Marcos, that I myself started my teaching career through Teach for America, though I am very old. So I will also be nodding my head as well, because I remember well my first year of teaching. I've talked to these guys about my first year of teaching lots and lots and lots, and that the main thing that I did in my first year of teaching involved crying and eating and working really hard, and usually in some kind of combination with each other. You notice I did not say sleeping, but I would cry while eating, I would eat while working, I would cry while working. It's hard. The work is hard. So, but these folks here are in their second year. And as I also promised you, has second year not been better than first year? Yes, yes. And so they are engaged this year in studying their teaching practice. They are finishing their master's degrees, and so they are in the process of conducting a classroom improvement project. So these two chairs are empty because what I'm hoping to do is bring them 2 by 2 down to talk a little bit about how they are working to improve their teaching practice. And what I'm hoping you will learn is, or that you can identify for us, are any ideas that are helpful to you, or things that are similar or different in your setting. Because we're just happy to have you here, and basically we want to be able to share and have a conversation about our global profession. So, can we start with Marion and Beth? Slide forward. Yes,
I'm okay now again.
You are, and Tomas, is your audio working now?
Yeah, it's okay now. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So who are you? Where do you teach?
I'm Thomas Nicholson. Well, I'm teaching in two schools here in Buenos Aires. I study business administration in University of Buenos Aires, and well, now I'm teaching in two different schools, like three different subjects. Well, I'm very enthusiastic with this new projects, and well, I'm really happy of being part of this global network, right?
Excellent. Good. Thank you so much. And so that I think I explained to some of you when we were coming in, a really major difference between Argentinian schools and American schools is, especially at the secondary level, there's a concept called turnos, and that you would maybe teach in one school in the morning and another school in the afternoon. So that is fairly different. In the United States, if you were a high school teacher, you would probably be in the same building all day long. And so all of these people are teaching in the same building all day long. But at any rate, thank you for joining us. And so would the two of you talk a little bit about who you are, where you teach, and kind of what are the ideas that you're working on in your classroom improvement projects?
Mm-hmm. Okay. My name is Marion. I teach second grade at a public charter school, and I'm working on implementing restorative justice practices in my classroom. So the idea that everything is very community or family oriented in a classroom. When there is something that is in violation of your community rules, when somebody does something wrong or there's conflict, it's resolved with the community in mind and with restoring whatever harm happened, so that the victim gets closure and that whoever committed that offense has an opportunity to feel restored and welcome back to the community so that they can be successful again.
And so what are you seeing so far?
I started this at the beginning of my second year, so it's been, I don't know, 6 months now. It was very different my first year. I was just using the practices that were in place at my school, but I have a lot of students with a lot of emotional needs that really wasn't working for them. They needed more support from their peers. And so I've, over the course of this year, been using a lot more community circles where if there's a bigger problem, it's brought to the whole community and students have an opportunity to share what they're thinking and feeling about it and what they think should happen as a result. And I've been doing focus groups to see what my students think of this practice and whether it's helpful to them or they perceive it as better or worse than the sort of traditional methods that were in place before. And it's been really overwhelmingly positive. Students seem to really enjoy the opportunity to talk about what they're thinking and feeling, and also to have the opportunity to apologize and make amends when they do make a mistake. Some of my students even actually explicitly stated that they like it because they feel guilty after they do something wrong, and it gives them a chance to heal the person that they wronged, and it gives them a chance to feel better about that guilt.
Great. Beth, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Beth, and I teach third grade at Lutheran Choice School, and it's primarily Hispanic, our school is. And I have 29 kids in my class this year, so I try to get them into small groups whenever possible, because they just respond a lot better that way. But I found that small group time is really only valuable if the other kids are working on something during that time. So during my reading groups, I created packets to help my kids be held accountable for the work they need to get done during their small groups throughout the week. And we're in our second week of it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Great. So what are some, well, actually, maybe we'll do two groups and then we'll have you tell us some of the things that you're noticing. So Becca and Gunnar, can you guys come up and give a nice little snap? Honor our community.
Do you want to make it full? So us.
Yeah, we could. Can they? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. So how about Mary Catherine and Michaela? Why don't you come on over here and we can have a group of 4 that we can go down. Okay, so Becca, why don't you start us off?
Okay. So I'm Becca, and I teach at a charter school in Milwaukee called Hmong American Peace Academy, and almost 90% of our students are Hmong, and that's a group of people who come from parts of China and Laos in Southeast Asia and came to America after the Vietnam War. And because of the group of students I work with, many of them are ELL or ESL, which means they're English language learners. And so one of the difficulties I've seen in class is teaching students writing. To write a fluent sentence and to have the correct verb tenses is a very difficult thing with my students. And so in order to help the writing process, I've decided to do writer's workshop. And so we've been doing this for a month, and I wanted to see a growth in attitude about writing, to have students be more comfortable with their writing and more proud of their writing. And I also wanted to improve their ability to use the correct conventions of writing.
Excellent. Good. How about you?
So I teach third grade at Long American Peace Academy with Becca, so I would probably get her kids next year. And what I noticed in my classroom was my students are really receptive to getting whatever work it is that they need to get done. That's not easy, but where there is an issue is how do we actually talk about what we're experiencing with our emotions, and how do we interact in such a way that's going to be meaningful, or even if we do discuss something, that it doesn't mean I'm offending you in any way. So I started just by giving my students very basic surveys, and that helped me gather a lot of the information that right now I'm still currently in the process of gathering for my project. But what I noticed that they really needed was just an outlet to actually talk about what it is that they're experiencing, what they're going through. So right now they have these social emotional journals, and they were super excited to take them home from spring break. I hadn't even brought that up, but once you asked, and then everybody was on board. So the data has been collected, and it seems like it's a very valuable tool for them so far to be able to. And I really made sure to emphasize it's not that the writing in the journal is going to solve your problem, but that's going to help you be able to gather my project.
Yeah, things are growing. Excellent. We've been joined by a couple new teachers in Argentina, so welcome. My name is Desiree Pointer-Mays.
So right now they have
former Teach for America president.
they were super excited.
And ask you really quickly to turn off the microphone while these folks are presenting. Then we'll have a little bit less of that feedback. And but what we're doing is all of our Teach for America teachers are talking about the work that they're doing in their classrooms to improve their teaching practice. But then your job is to be thinking about what are some connections to your teaching practice or questions that you might have. So we'll do these two, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys for questions. So get ready. Michaela.
Yes, and I'm sorry about the connecting now. It's just we had some problem with Hangout. We don't usually use that.
Okay.
So
well, I'm very happy.
There's another teacher that I'm chatting with who has very bad connection. So she's trying. She may be getting into the conversation a little bit later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting us know. All right, Michaela.
Of course.
Okay, so I'm Michaela McCarthy, or Michaela Groth now, actually. I just got married this summer. But I teach at St. Anthony's School. It's a Catholic choice school in Milwaukee. And so what I kind of started working on with my project was that I'm working at a school where 99% of our students are Hispanic, or their parents don't necessarily speak English at home, but then they're being expected to take multiple standardized tests in English. So I kind of wanted to get a couple different perspectives, both from the students and their families as well, about how they feel about these standardized tests, and then ways that we can help as teachers to get them prepared, because they are very stressful for the students. I started with a survey just to get students' ideas and use that survey to come up with some action steps. And now I'm going to actually survey them again to see how they felt after they take a very large exam that's coming up called the Badger exam. So two big takeaways from that initial survey. The first was that students feel a lot of stress when they sit down to take these exams. They don't necessarily know how to attack the questions, and therefore they get very stressed out, which also leads them to get frustrated and kind of give up on the exams. And then the second piece was just then they didn't really know how to deal with the stress or what to do with it, and so kind of dealing with those stress management things. So we've been trying a bunch of different things, a lot of experimental, let's see if this helps, and it might be something that I have to work on again next year during this time, but so far I think it's been helpful. We're doing a lot of coping strategies. So how can I calm myself down? What would deep breathing exercises look like? How can I cope when I realize that I am nervous? And then also, how can I actually attack these questions in a way that's manageable? So that's what we're really working on right now. And I'm really hoping that in 2 weeks when we take this exam, the kids will come out feeling a lot stronger. So,
Great. Very good.
Hi, I'm Mary Kaplan. I teach at a Lutheran choice school. I teach second grade, so love it. And the project that I'm working on is I moved from doing whole group math instruction to doing it into a small groups where it's more differentiated. And my goal is to see like a large growth in participation and then also in the confidence of the students in their math skills.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you guys. And then, now we're going to just pause for a moment and have some of our Argentinian colleagues say, what are some connections you can make? Are there similar struggles that you face with your students or things that are very different in your context that would be helpful for us to know about? The people who haven't talked, make your way down to the front while they're talking. So what do you think? Marcos, what are some things that you heard that are common or different in your setting?
Well, to begin with, we usually work in secondary school, and as you said, it's not only that there are different shifts, so like morning and afternoon, but it's also that we have a system which makes teachers have to go to maybe 5 schools in order to be able to have the minimum of hours they need to live. So in order to have, I don't know, 40 hours, some teachers, for instance, a history teacher has to go to a lot of schools. So there's a lot of problem in involving themselves with the school. And well, then there are some of the problems which are the same, but we don't have that stress about the exams because actually there are a lot of opportunities, and there are no exams which for themselves they are like making a big difference, you know. Only when they have been doing bad during the year and they have to give some exams to recover those subjects and those disciplines is when they stress out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Natalia, what are some of the things you've heard?
Well, I was very attracted to the project of the justice system that includes the communities. I didn't get the name of the girl who explained it. I'm sorry. Because I see a lot of things that happen in the school where the community is not very integrated and it's not very included, and many times the kids themselves, they feel very alone and they don't have anyone to go to express their problems or when they don't feel right about something. So I was very intrigued about how did the rest of the community, not the students, but the rest of the community, how did they take the project when you created it or when you started it?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that question, Mary?
Sure. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So most of my students have really enjoyed it. There are, I would say, a minority of my students who cause a majority of problems or that need the most redirection in class, as I think is the case in most classrooms. But even those community members who are almost always doing the right thing or are always supportive, I think it's really helpful for them because they get frustrated too. If learning is stopped because there's distraction in the room, it's helpful for them to have a place to say, I feel frustrated when we have to stop learning reading because this is going on in our classroom. And I think it's more powerful for them to hear it from a peer, someone their own age, than to hear that from a teacher. So even the students that might be doing that, it almost means more for them to hear it from someone their own age who's in their classroom all the time than from a teacher who they do get redirections from and feedback from pretty consistently. So I think my class as a whole has really benefited from it, not just the students that need that extra support.
Nice. Excellent. Well, so, well, maybe, oh, is there somebody else? Yes.
I think she
Oh, no. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm trying to look in two places. Let's continue with this lineup of people. Why don't we start at the other end with Nikki this time?
Okay, well, my name's Nikki. I teach at a charter school in Milwaukee as well. In our school, we ability group our students. So the third grader, I teach third grade. The third graders with the highest reading scores are in one class. The third graders with the middle chunk of reading scores are in one class. And the third graders with the lowest scores for reading are in my class. So having that class, we call it the novice class, having that class, my kids really struggle with reading. They've probably struggled their entire lives with reading. A lot of them have learning disabilities. A lot of them have very special needs in my classroom, which they're in my classroom because we have two teachers, so I have kind of a lot of freedom with being able to teach them and have a lot of small groups going on. But what I've noticed with the curriculum that I'm required to teach with fidelity, that's our phrase, basically I have to do it or I get in trouble, is really boring and doesn't have a lot of opportunity for kids to be actively participating. Mostly they're supposed to be just sitting down and listening or taking notes. Well, that doesn't really work for a group of students who predominantly have ADHD, are hyperactive, have focus problems, and stuff a lot. What my classroom improvement project is about is integrating more movement into my class. I'm focusing specifically on reading because my kids don't struggle as much in math as they do in reading. But I'm trying to integrate a lot more movement into my class. Just really simple things like hopping from one foot to another when we flip the page over when we're reading, or doing jumping jacks while we spell our sight words, or running in place while somebody comes up to the board and gives us an answer. I'm pretty much looking for anything to help my students become more engaged in this curriculum because I'm basically trying to get around what my administration makes me do. But I'm just really looking for anything to help these kids get more engaged because what I've been reading about is that kids are actually more likely to be attentive and to be focused and to process more if they actually are moving, which I guess you might think the opposite based on the way we've always taught our classes, but it's actually not true. So, and I've seen a lot of results. It's only been 3 weeks, but I've just, in general, my kids are happier, they're more engaged, they're laughing, they're having a good time, they're not getting into trouble as much because they're doing more interesting things. They don't feel like they have to sit and take notes all day. So I'm just going to keep going with that. I'm pretty much adding as much moving as possible. One of my kids said to me today, like, I'm tired. It was like 9:30 in the morning, and I was like, well, we got like 5 hours to go. Sorry. But so far, I'm very impressed with the way my kids have been handling it. I'm also really pleased with the way they're acting.
So I teach 4th grade at a public charter school also. My project has mostly been around trying to find or give my students skills for addressing conflicts that they have, especially in the classroom or in situations like at recess or at lunch. And the first thing that we did was talk about different kind of levels of conflict and different types of problems and when a problem requires an adult to help solve the issue and when it can be, solved through a conversation, or maybe they need to find a third person to help mediate and find a solution, and actually giving them very concrete phrases to use to address, like make it known what their feelings are about a situation and to kind of request let the other person know what they need in order to, or would like to see happen. It's been a challenge. We have a relatively small amount of time to actually work with those lessons, so I've been trying to be really consistent with it. Starting to see some results, although the story I shared earlier was an example from today at recess. Somebody got hit accidentally. They came up to me and said, "She hit me." Was it on purpose? Well, no. Okay, so who should you be talking to? But I have a minor issue. So they're picking up some of the phrases, but not quite getting to what do we do, or do we have a minor problem? This is something that could be solved with a very quick conversation, an apology. But
They're getting there.
They're getting there.
Excellent. Good. Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I teach 4th grade at a public charter school. My project focuses mainly on academics. I teach 2 4th grade math classes, and one of them was significantly outperforming the other on like all accounts, standardized tests, classroom work, class quizzes, participation, everything. And so I realized something kind of had to change in the other class. So I started teaching with centers and small groups where the kids would rotate. And it's been going really well. And another thing I implemented was they track their own data. So like any score they get on a test, or how they think they did that day with participating and asking questions, they kind of rate themselves and keep that with them. And it's been really great. Like their test scores have vastly improved. The amount of kids not passing has gone down greatly. So it's been really successful. I see a lot more participation. I see a lot more of joy and engagement from myself as well, because before it was more just me being frustrated with them, and now I actually enjoy teaching them. So it's been nice, and I think, and it's been nice for me too, because I don't have to change the material I'm teaching. I just change the way I'm teaching it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Nice. That's the nice outcome for the teacher of the classroom improvement project, is that you feel happier.
Right.
Good. Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan. I teach 2nd grade at a public charter as well, and I teach the math classes to both classes. And what I was seeing in my classroom was just the students can do the work, most of them, but there was such a lack of effort and so much complaining, and anytime I would ask them to do pretty much anything. And so I was trying to find a way to increase effort and increase a better, more positive attitude. And one way that to increase the effort is I did a lot more data tracking between the 2 classes, trying to putting them into competition with each other, which worked a lot and really quickly. And then also with individual data tracking. But a large part of my focus has been looking at the theories of mindsets and looking at a growth mindset, believing that you can change your intelligence if you work hard and you keep trying and persistent, or you can have a fixed mindset, meaning that you just think that you're not going to get it because you never have, and so why should I even try? And so I've been teaching 4 or 5 lessons about fixed versus growth mindset in my class, and my students are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable in explaining what sort of mindset they have, or what sort of mindset they have in a specific moment. If they're thinking, well, I'm not going to get this because I never have before and I just don't really think I should even try. Or if they're feeling more motivated to know, like, okay, this is going to be difficult, but it's going to be a challenge, and so that's going to be fun even. And so I'm starting to see a little bit of improvement. I'm hoping that it will carry into their really high stake end of the year test. And so I won't know for a couple weeks really if it has made a difference, but for what I see in class every day, I'm starting to see a difference. And it's usually the students that are struggling the most, right, like we all know, that have the least amount of effort that they put forward. So even if we can just bring that effort up a little bit, would be a really big improvement. So, yeah.
Nice. All right, well, claps for you guys. And I'm going to unmute you guys in Argentina. Let's see, or you can unmute yourselves. But what are some things that you noticed there? What are some trends that are common for you as well? Let's see. Oh, Magdalena, can you hear us? Do you want to share with us about what you hear so far and what you noticed?
Yes. Hello, how are you? I did the program 2 years ago as a teacher, and now I'm working with our fellows. And when I listened to the stories, I thought about the fellows I'm working with. They have different realities, but they are like very similar worries. For example, Thomas, who is working with me, is thinking a lot, like beyond the specific things you have to give in the subject and try to go like for different skills. So, and another thing I was thinking too is that we are working like as Enseña por Argentina as an institution with some abilities like skills, for example, grit, confidence, and all of those things you were also mentioning. So I think it would be great if we can like connect fellows who are working in these two because they can share practice.
I think that's so powerful. And how many times have we said the word grit in the last year and a half, right? That's definitely something that is a common and popular way to think about the things that are so indicative of child success, not only in a particular lesson, not only with a particular teacher, but in life, right? That is our big goal, especially when we serve high need populations, high poverty populations, when you want to transform children, families, communities, cities, and so on with the positive work that we do with people. Let's switch. So we have, I think, who else has not gone? We've got the Katie? Yeah? Okay, so switch the group. Thanks, guys.
Tomas also wanted to share something.
Yes, please, Tomas.
Yes, no, well, first, I really feel very, very happy and glad to listen to some of you that talk about like sharing like feelings and sharing what they think about a situation and more about what they are feeling in some moments. I really see like education like from that side also, and I'm really very glad to listen that in like far away from here they're talking about the same. Yes, it's really and it was like the first person that talked of you, and then other one also like mentioned about that. It's really that I feel like in all our system, our educational system, they teach us about different persons, but they they forget about trying to teach us about who we are. So that is really very important, I think. And well, it's also I want to mention something about we have similar things in our head, like things like the students are getting boring in our classes. Some of you said that, and that they are not like interested in what we are trying to teach. So I really think that is a big problem that we are having. That's why sometimes I really escape from the things that I have to teach, and I go to the feelings and all that because I love that part. And I feel that they're happy with that. But it's not. There is my Magdalena is going to feel bad with what I'm saying, but. I think that it really makes me some like noise when you talk about like improve the effort of the students. We have to make like a competition. I don't know if that is like the only way, but I think that we have and it's good to I think that like all think about this. How do we do to make the classes more interesting? How do we do for as the students get really interested in what we are teaching? I think that we have to bring all the subject to their interests, and I don't know. It's like we have to think a lot about that here in Argentina, and it's also I think that's also a problem there because you mentioned it. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think one thing that's interesting is that I learned last summer that Argentina has very, very high achievement gaps, like the United States does. And so we are all very invested in, I think, closing those kinds of achievement gaps so that we can have a fairer and more just society. And I think that, just like you're saying, Tomas, it's about what's going to be of interest to the students. So it's not competition because competition, like we want one class to win. But in that kind of setting, it's because that's going to be very positive and motivating for Megan's students, and that they're going to be really excited about that, and that is actually the learner-centered decision-making that she's taking as part of her teaching. So let's continue on, and we'll hear from Charlie and Kate, and then maybe I'm going to put our Argentinian visitors on deck. What do you hear? What are connections that you make? So let's continue with you guys.
Okay, hi, I'm Katie Sorilla. I teach at Carver, a public school. I teach 7th grade. The classroom improvement project that I'm doing is more so based on sex education, so it's more content-based. And so the problem within my classroom, and I think a lot of schools in general, is that, like, for instance, I think only like a handful of my students, even at 7th grade, have ever received any sex education at all. And that's an issue when you're in the 7th grade and, students are already sexually active in some way. And so, especially when you have high HIV rates in areas like Milwaukee, especially the inner city, low-income areas, and other high STD rates like chlamydia, gonorrhea are also very high in Milwaukee, and also teen pregnancy rates. So they're steadily declining, especially among Black teenagers in Milwaukee. It is one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the nation with the large cities. So it's a big issue, and a lot of schools and teachers feel uncomfortable tackling this subject. And even today, my students were like, "How come we never got taught this stuff before?" And I didn't even have to answer. Another one of my students was like, "Well, some teachers don't like teaching it, and it makes them feel weird." So it was really kind of interesting seeing that, like, students themselves know that. But what I did was I created, I wanted to do a really comprehensive sex education program. So not only talking about contraception and STDs and abstinence, but also talking about healthy relationships and consent and communication, ways to say no, ways not only to say no, but also ways to accept no as an answer, because that's really important for our students. And so I gave them a pre-test that had little snippets of what I thought, was very important information from all those topics. And they took the pre-test, and now I am currently, we are just about to start anatomy. So we already had discussed consent is always the first thing I discussed, and like making the classroom a safe space for my students. And then we went into healthy relationships, sexual orientation, and now we're moving on into anatomy. And then I still have a large variety of topics and things to talk about, but also at the end of each lesson, I do have an anonymous Q&A session where I put a post-it on all my students' desks, and as we're going through lessons, they write down any questions they have, and then I do my best to answer those questions at the end of the lesson, and then before we start the next lesson the next day. And then at the end of this, I'll be giving them a post-test. The goal of this is to reduce risky sexual behavior and to make them informed so they can make healthy decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting example because this is it's a public health issue in Milwaukee. Not only do we have one of the highest teen pregnancy rates, but we also then have a really high infant mortality rate because we find that children are being born to families that aren't being prepared to care for them, and there's just a whole big complicated issue of how do we ensure that all children are welcomed into loving families who are prepared to give them the resources that they need. I'll also mention that Katie's been very intentional about communicating with her principals and with the children's parents around all of the content that they're receiving, and I think that they are squarely behind you in wanting their children to learn about this. It would be very different if Katie were at Michaela's school, which is a Catholic school. So we recognize that there are some differences there. Charlie, talk to us about your project.
Yeah, hi, I'm Charlie. I think it's interesting. I mean, like, I'm focusing on kind of basically, essentially, impediments to teaching. And I think when hearing, I think it was Tomas saying that getting kids to compete in class is a great way to get them engaged, etc. I'm focusing on kind of the toxic environments that kids have in their home lives and how they can kind of come up with the language to articulate their emotions when they're in a school setting. I use a program called Second Step. And then I've adapted it to certain like specific classroom issues. And essentially it just gives kids a deeper vocabulary about their emotions and ways to work around it. And it focuses through a number of basically channels. So the first would be anger management and then empathy training later on. So kids can learn how to really not only control their own anger, but actually feel for one another. Basically, at the end of the project, I can really track the data of behavior referrals and incidents in the classroom. Because the first time I did it, my incidents went way down, and we have this transience, and I'm sure that happens pretty much in any city, where kids come in and out of classrooms from other schools. And so halfway through the year, I've got about 6 new students, and so now working to reteach curriculum about emotions to children. And then looking at how low my referrals go, or basically behavior incidents.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you. Thank you. And now I'd love to have some of my Argentina's friends come down here and say, and basically this will be fun, right? So speaking in English to your Argentinian friends.
Yes,
but because they've been here and they've been...
Castellano, por favor.
Yeah. They've been touring some schools here in Milwaukee. They've been learning from us about our curriculum at Alverno. And so certainly if you can speak first to sort of our students, what did you hear? What are some things that you appreciate about their sharing? And then maybe what are some connections or some questions that you have for our Enseña por Argentina friends?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I am grateful for being here and for having heard about this number of young professors and teachers and your enthusiasm and your friends and your objectives, because I feel like I am this way and I didn't know that you existed. So, but I appreciate this mainly because maybe in my professor meetings at school, I don't hear about young professors saying these things about I love my kids and I want them to grow up and to solve their problems, their emotional problems. Obviously, they may do that, but I don't hear these experiences many. So this like charges me of positive energy and makes me feel like that I am not alone, because I think the same and I work on the same things. So, well, that's what I appreciate from what I heard.
I see a lot of nodding. That's good. You guys know that I have the weepy gene, so I get, it's very easy for me to get inspired and start crying. So I will, I'll wait. There you go. Poppy, what do you hear?
Yes, I realized that the needs are the same throughout the world, and it was so nice to hear, same as you say, the different strategies that these young teachers have come up with. Some were very similar to things that we came up with after years of practicing. So, and I see that we're all trying to do is making our lessons interesting, authentic, relevant, useful for real life. We want to make our students and children learn how to manage their own lives, to deal with conflict in peaceful ways. So I think all the different things that I heard here are wonderful strategies. So it's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yes, I also feel that it's very rewarding to listen to all these young teachers talking about their views of education with the child or the student at the center, and to be able to foster them talking about emotions and the child as a person mainly, and not just a student, and also to it's very, I mean, I'm also just like Cecilia was saying, filled with very positive energy that that people are working on those lines and with such enthusiasm. So it's wonderful.
Absolutely.
For me, it's very interesting to see how you could focus, identify first some issue or problem or challenge for that students, and identify and focus one possible solution or improvement. I think several times in education, in Argentina, we want to solve all the problems at the same time. That's impossible, and you don't know where to start. So, great thing is that you can identify a problem, a challenge, and a correct instrument or instruct to improve that, and focus on that, and then the other things, well, you're going to see how you
They can do that next.
Yes,
Right.
but you start with one.
Yeah, exactly. Start with one is maybe a good title for our work together. Thank you.
Yeah, I shared with Elsa about, I was surprised how classroom management and emotional kind of non-cognitive factors were in most of your projects. And I was thinking how teacher preparation deals with those issues, and I feel that they lack in that sense, that kind of the strategies that the teachers needs in this area of emotional kind of education. So yes, I keep thinking in the ways to prepare new teachers and in this very stressful environment, and they don't get burned out, and give them some strategies to deal with this stressful situation. And once they are kind of in a better kind of place as a person, they will kind of gain confidence and be better teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I just want to thank all of you and all of you. We're getting to the end of our scheduled time together, but it just like Ceci was saying, I think teaching is hard, right? We work so hard every day. We give our hearts to our students and to their communities and their families. But I think one of the ways in which we get paid well is in moments like this. You know, when we can gather together and recognize that this is just 2 countries, right? How many countries are there in the world where there are teachers of goodwill talking to each other right now about how to help children? And that, to me, is part of why we do what we do, right? That this is a way of, without being too trite, making the world a better place. And so I just want to thank all of you for coming and for joining us. I'm thrilled that this worked. And this will be, we recorded this, so I will share this with you as well so that you can share it with anybody who wasn't able to attend.
Yes.
But I also just want to say that I'm deeply grateful for you agreeing to participate with people that you didn't even know existed, like Cici was saying. And I really hope that I'm able to meet with you when I'm in Buenos Aires in June and July. So let's give ourselves a big round of applause. And I'm going to stop the broadcast now.